2 months ago, I underwent a vasectomy without telling my wife because she was against using birth control. Now she's claiming she's pregnant, calling it a divine miracle, and I'm struggling to figure out how to reveal that it's impossible without admitting my secret. I'm a 35-year-old man, married to my 33-year-old wife for a decade. We have 2 children, aged 8 and 6, and we'd agreed after our second that our family was complete. I was certain I didn't want more kids. 2 is plenty for me to handle. My wife, raised in a deeply religious household, believed if God intended for us to have another child, it would happen naturally. She was opposed to contraception or sterilization, viewing them as interfering with divine will. While I respected her beliefs to a degree, I wasn't comfortable leaving our future to chance. So I made the decision to get a vasectomy in secret. Yes, I know it was a major thing to hide, and looking back, I see how wrong that was. We'd had disagreements about expanding our family before. She wasn't open to permanent solutions like a vasectomy, insisting it went against God's plan. I'd argue we lacked the time, money, or energy for more kids, and she'd usually respond that fate would decide. That mindset worried me. It essentially meant she wasn't taking steps to prevent pregnancy. I'd been using condoms sporadically, but we both disliked them, and sometimes we weren't careful. Feeling uneasy, I took control of the situation. The vasectomy was straightforward. I took a few days off work, claiming I was on a business trip and had a friend cover for me. I was sore afterward, but managed to hide it. When my wife and kids returned home, I played off my discomfort as a minor illness, lounging on the couch. She didn't suspect anything, and life went back to normal. She believed we were still leaving things to fate, while I knew I'd eliminated the possibility of conception. Then, 2 days ago, my wife announced she was pregnant. She was radiant, waving a positive test in my face and hugging me tightly. My initial reaction was pure shock. I barely kept myself from saying something foolish. I mustered a surprised expression, which wasn't hard because I was floored, just not for the reasons she assumed. I asked, "Really? Are you certain?" She showed me 2 positive tests, beaming about how this was clearly meant to be. She called it a miracle, saying God must want us to have another child. I felt like I was floating outside my body as she spoke. In my mind, I knew this was impossible unless I wasn't the father. But I couldn't say that outright. I nodded, mumbled that we should see a doctor to confirm, and kept repeating how unexpected this was. She didn't notice my panic, caught up in her excitement about the miracle. I played along for the sake of our kids, forcing a weak smile and saying something like, "Well, if it's God's will, I guess it's happening." Inside, I was falling apart. That night, I couldn't sleep, lying next to her while my thoughts raced. I'm sharing this anonymously online because I'm at a loss. If my vasectomy was successful, and I haven't done the follow-up test to confirm, there's no way this baby is mine. There's a slim chance the procedure didn't work or hasn't fully taken effect, as it's only been 8 weeks. I know you're supposed to check sperm count after 12 weeks to be sure, but I followed all the doctor's instructions, and failure rates are tiny. My instincts scream that something's wrong. Her miracle comment haunts me, and not in a comforting way. I haven't confronted her yet. She has no clue about the vasectomy or my doubts. She thinks I'm just stunned by the news, which is partly true. I've been quiet, acting drained, trying to process this without exploding. Do I confess about the vasectomy and demand answers? That would detonate our marriage, as she'd realize I went behind her back on something huge. Or do I wait, maybe get a paternity test after the baby's born or even during the pregnancy? Suggesting a test would signal distrust and imply infidelity, which could ruin things whether she cheated or not. I'm stuck in a nightmare. I feel ill, especially when I look at our kids and think about how this could upend their lives. If I confront her and it leads to a fight or separation, they'll suffer too. I haven't told anyone about the vasectomy or my suspicions, not friends, family, or our pastor, since we attend church mostly for her. So here I am, spilling my chaos online, seeking advice on how to handle this miracle baby without destroying everything. Should I get a sperm count test first to confirm the vasectomy worked? I've got an appointment next week for that. Part of me wants to blurt out, "I had a vasectomy, so this is impossible," but I'm trying to avoid catastrophe until I'm certain. Update 1. Many of you suggested I confirm my fertility before acting impulsively. I'm doing that. I've got a sperm count test scheduled in a few days, as I mentioned. I'm waiting on those results and trying to stay open-minded. These past couple of days have been excruciating, though I'm hiding it as best I can. Here's what's happened since my last post. I haven't accused my wife of anything or revealed the vasectomy. But this morning at breakfast, I casually mentioned how shocking this pregnancy is, saying, "We were careful. I didn't think this was possible." I hoped she'd offer some insight. She just smiled and said, "It's incredible, isn't it? Miracles happen when you don't expect them." She touched her stomach and talked about feeling blessed. I forced a smile, biting back my real thoughts. Later, she noticed my subdued reaction and asked if I was excited about the baby. She seemed worried I wasn't thrilled. I tried to reassure her without lying too much, saying I'm still adjusting but love our kids and support her. It felt awkward and I probably seemed distant. She got upset, saying she needs me to be all in, that this is a gift. I nodded and said I just need time to process. She let it go, but she knows something's off. I'm not great at pretending. Every time she mentions baby names or whether it's a boy, I freeze up and change the subject. I also suggested we hold off telling others until a doctor confirms the pregnancy. She wanted to share with our kids and her sister immediately, but I said we should wait for an ultrasound, citing the possibility of a false positive. She agreed but seemed disappointed I wasn't more enthusiastic. She likely thinks it's because I'm less religious. I still haven't mentioned the vasectomy. I regret hiding it. Many of you pointed out it was a mistake, and I agree. It was a cowardly move, reflecting deeper communication problems in our marriage. I should have been upfront instead of acting alone. Now I'm paying for it. I haven't found proof of cheating. Some suggested checking her phone, so I glanced at it while she was showering. I saw nothing suspicious, just texts with her sister, mom, friends, and our neighborhood group chat for community stuff. No odd messages with men. If she's hiding something, she's covering her tracks well. One thing caught my eye. A few weeks ago in the neighborhood chat, our neighbor's wife, Lisa, said she'd be out of town, and my wife offered to help her husband, Mark, with some chores since he'd hurt his arm. I vaguely recall her going over one afternoon while I was at work. At the time, I thought it was just neighborly kindness. We're friendly with them, and our kids play together. Now my mind's spinning, wondering if there's more to it. It's probably nothing, but I'm paranoid, imagining scenarios like my wife alone with Mark while Lisa was away. I feel guilty for suspecting it, as Mark's been a good friend, and Lisa's close with my wife. I haven't confronted anyone and won't unless I have solid evidence. Emotionally, I'm a wreck but keeping it together around her. When I'm alone, like now, typing this from my car during lunch, I obsess over worst-case scenarios. At home, I act normal, but it's draining. My plan is to wait for the sperm test and the OB-GYN appointment next week to confirm the pregnancy. If I'm somehow not sterile, I'll deal with the fallout of my secret. If the test shows no sperm, I'll have my answer. I'm hoping for clarity soon because faking happiness while feeling sick is torture. Update 2, I got my semen analysis results back. 0 sperm count, none at all. The technician confirmed the vasectomy worked perfectly. If my wife is pregnant, I'm almost certainly not the father. We also attended her OB-GYN appointment 2 days ago. I went along, pretending to be supportive. The ultrasound confirmed she's about 7 weeks pregnant, meaning conception happened around 5 or 6 weeks ago. I recall being swamped at work then, and we barely had sex, maybe once if that. I stayed silent about the vasectomy and my suspicions during the visit. No way was I starting that fight in front of the doctor. To outsiders, we probably looked like a happy couple. My wife held my hand during the ultrasound and I squeezed back, but my mind was in chaos. After the appointment, I couldn't hold back anymore. The confirmed pregnancy, the timeline, and my test results were overwhelming. That night after the kids were asleep, I told her we needed to talk. Sitting in the living room, I confessed about the vasectomy, explaining why I did it. We'd agreed on no more kids, but her stance against birth control left me anxious, so I acted alone. Her face went blank with shock. She stammered, "What do you mean?" I laid it out, how I felt we couldn't risk an unplanned pregnancy. She was furious, accusing me of betraying her and meddling with God's plan. I let her vent, then said, "I know you're mad about the vasectomy, but the bigger issue is this pregnancy doesn't add up." She snapped that vasectomies can fail and accused me of implying she cheated because I never wanted another child. I stayed calm, saying, "I'm just stating facts. I can't be the father unless this is a 1 in a million fluke." She kept blaming my secrecy, saying none of this would have happened if I'd been honest. I admitted I was wrong to hide it, but pointed out that doesn't explain her pregnancy. She broke down, sobbing that I must hate her and don't want the baby. Normally, I'd comfort her, but I just sat there numb. I told her we're getting a DNA test, no debate. She looked devastated, asking, "You really think I cheated?" I replied, "I don't know, but science is clear. If you're innocent, a test won't scare you." She cried harder, saying I'd ruin everything. I said, "That might already be done." She stormed to the bedroom and locked me out. I spent the night on the couch, barely sleeping. The house is now a war zone of silence. We only speak about the kids. I'm sticking to my demand for a DNA test. This could destroy everything, depending on the results. She's still denying any wrongdoing, but I'm waiting for the truth. Living like this is hell, but I need answers. Update 3. After days of agonizing tension, my wife finally confessed last night. We'd been living like strangers, barely talking except for necessities. I kept insisting on the paternity test, saying it was non-negotiable. She'd respond with silence or, "I can't believe you're doing this." She spent a lot of time crying alone in the bedroom while I stayed on the couch or left the house to escape the strain. Then last night, she sat me down in the living room and said we needed to talk. I braced for another argument or plea to drop the test, but instead, she admitted she'd had an affair. She said quietly, "I have to tell you I was unfaithful." I stared, speechless. Even though I'd suspected it, hearing it hit like a truck. I didn't respond, so she continued, saying it wasn't a long-term thing, just a couple of encounters. She spilled details in my silence. It was with our neighbor, Mark. I shut my eyes, exhaling deeply. I'd feared this, but confirmation still felt surreal. She sobbed, apologizing, saying it started 2 months ago when Mark injured his arm and Lisa was out of town. My suspicions about that day were right. She went to help him and things crossed a line. She claimed it happened twice, was purely physical, and she ended it afterward. I managed to ask, "Why? How could you?" She cried that she felt lonely and unvalued, especially after I seemed so set against another child, which made her feel I didn't respect her beliefs. She mentioned my long work hours and our recent stress, saying she felt neglected. Her reasons blurred together. I was too stunned to process them fully. I felt like I was looking at a stranger. I asked, "Is the baby his?" She looked wretched and said, "I don't know." She admitted the timing of her encounters with Mark aligns with conception. She'd hoped the baby was mine, clinging to the miracle idea, but my push for a test forced her to face reality. She said she's terrified of losing me. I asked if Mark or Lisa knew about the pregnancy. She said no. Mark doesn't even know she's pregnant, as she cut contact after their second encounter. She begged me not to end our marriage, offering counseling or even suggesting I could even the score with my own fling. That broke my heart further, reducing our marriage to some transactional game. I barely spoke, just asked a few questions. Why, who, how often does he know? When she finished, I said calmly, "I need you to leave me alone right now." I grabbed my keys and left. I'm writing this from a motel parking lot. I haven't checked in, just drove and sat here reeling. Even though I saw this coming, it's devastating. The pain is there, but I'm keeping it at bay to handle practical steps. I haven't responded to her calls or texts, which range from apologies to pleas to come home. I need space. I also need to decide what to do about Mark and Lisa. Mark betrayed me too, and Lisa deserves to know, but I'm wary of the fallout since our kids are friends. For now, I'll sit here, maybe return home to sleep on the couch or guest bed. I'm heartbroken but grateful for this space to process. I'll update once I figure out my next moves with my marriage and the neighbors. Update 4. A lot has unfolded since my wife's confession. I asked her to stay with her sister temporarily to give me space and keep the kids out of our tension. She hesitated but went. I'm home with our children, trying to keep their lives stable. They don't know the full truth. We've given them a vague explanation for now. I told Lisa, Mark's wife, about the affair and pregnancy. She was shattered but thanked me for my honesty. That night, she confronted Mark, who admitted everything, and she kicked him out. Both our marriages are in ruins. I've spoken to a divorce lawyer and am preparing to file. The pregnancy complicates things. Legally, a child born during marriage is presumed mine in our state. But my attorney is working to ensure I'm not held responsible for a non-biological child. We'll likely do a DNA test, possibly prenatal, to establish paternity officially. I can't see a way to stay with my wife. The trust is gone. I'm coping, functional some moments, hit by grief or anger in others. I've started therapy, which helps slightly. My priority is protecting our kids and shielding them from this chaos. My wife keeps pleading for another chance, but I can't forgive her. Our communication is limited to logistics and the kids. Our families know the basics and are supporting me. It's a painful mess, but the truth is out, and the lies are over. Moving forward, I'm focused on being there for my children and navigating co-parenting when the time comes. I'm determined to keep their lives as stable as possible.